Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to a councillor briefing for Wednesday the 10th of December. This morning we have a briefing on the Whātaro concept design from staff, and I welcome members from the Community Reference Group in the room today. We will then follow with an in-depth overview from Selwyn Water Limited and then close that off for council meeting this afternoon. So I will hand over to the team to present on Whātaro concept design. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Good morning, kia ora everybody. I'm Matt Allen, Senior PM or Team Lead at Capital Works. Just quickly introduce the team. Dulcie Brown from Foley Group Architects, my two sponsors, Denise Kidd, Keith Beale, and then Catherine Parker, who's Head of Venues. So, yeah, thanks. We'll crack into it. So, Whātaro. Today is basically just a project update for the council of where we're at and where we're heading, basically. So we're going to provide a quick summary of where we've been, status on our program, financial summary, our funding structure, like all our projects, the endorsement from the Community Reference Group, and then a little bit of an overview as from the concept design, as Dulcie will lead the presentation for that. Yeah, so here we've just sort of highlighted a couple of the more important decisions or milestones. This project did start out back 2016 with some feasibility studies for a community centre and has evolved into a decision in LTP 21 leading into a business case for LTP 24 and then thematic analysis, design, and we end up where we are today, basically. Community Reference Group was developed and engaged back in October and have led the design through till today, where we are today. So in terms of program and status where we are, we have just completed our concept design. The reason the bar there is not quite at the finish of concept design, because typically we would have done some engineering type reports, but as we've been on the journey, we felt it very important to finish the concept design, i.e. the layout, etc., etc. So we had a good sense of where we were heading. So we will engage an engineering consultant, an engineering team in the new year, and head into preliminary design. The design will be over about a 7-month period through till November when we let it out to the open market for construction. And construction is likely to start at the end of this year with completion in February 2028. Financial summary, as most of you are aware, LTP 24, $16.01 million was approved in the budget, and option 2 was approved. Cost to date, we've had $1.67 million of cost to date through property purchase, demolition, design, etc., which leaves us a remaining budget of $14.6, and our current cost estimate on the concept design is $14.11. Now, slightly separate to that is that there is a $1.1 million budget set aside for toilets and change rooms. This is a reserves budget that is basically been pulled into our project, and that toilet and change room facility will be, as you'll see in the design, added on to the back of our community centre. So funding structure there, Whātaro is split into the first two lines, so a portion of open spaces and property and office and buildings, which obviously have a slightly different debt and DC ratio. And then the bottom line there is the, like I said, the separate budget for the toilets and change rooms at 1.1. Like I said, the community reference group have been involved since October last year and have done an incredible job, been round and visited multiple community facilities or libraries around the district and nationally via video. So yes, since that time they've come through with further developed the concept design when we end up where we are today with the community reference group giving us a letter of endorsement with all 7 members and also endorsement from a few community groups there, as you can see. So yeah, leading into the concept design presentation, there's a few sort of key facts up there that Dulcie will obviously highlight as she goes through her presentation. But our building GFA or gross floor area is sitting at 1,089 square metres at the moment. And I think for me, looking back at LTP discussions and through the thematic analysis and the likes, there was a very big push for flexible multi-purpose space. I think at LTP, that's listening to the recordings, that's all I heard was multi-purpose. Cookie cutter type design that could be standardised. Yeah. Anyway, I'll head over to you, Dulcie.
Yep.
You want to run the mouse? Zoom out one.
Okay, so our building is located on the northern corner of the park. Our initial bulk and location studies, which were carried out towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, we looked at several areas where the building could be sited. The location here was the favoured for the reasons of being close to the main town centre, making the most of the northern sun, connections to Leeston Lake Road for car parking, making the most of the outlook to the sports courts, sports fields, future expansion, the best use of the best land, and minimising contamination. So we've ended up with this location quite close to the existing RSA building, and with a main entrance that's clearly visible from this important road junction here. So access off Leeston Lake Road. The main entrance, if you can see my mouse, is accessed off a pathway through landscape gardens. We have a lawn, a community lawn on the left as you approach, and a hard surface multi-purpose plaza on the right. The main entrance is covered, and we have a veranda which wraps around most of the building to provide shelter from the sun and the rain. So a welcoming and covered entrance. You'll see in the 3D visuals soon that we've got opportunities for incorporating cultural narrative as we enter the building. So we come to a main wind lobby, and opposite the main wind lobby and entrance, we have the customer services desk. It was important for the team that position of the desk is provided so that we can offer that welcoming greeting to visitors, and also provide an outlook to provide security so staff are clearly having a view of what's happening in the public spaces. The orange spaces on the top, looking towards the sports fields, are community spaces. It's a large community room with an operable wall down the middle to provide flexibility, breaking down into two smaller groups or one large group. The community rooms are served by a small kitchen with an island bench with a servery. We have a bar. There's also a kiosk which is served by the kitchen to provide food and drinks to the users of the sports fields and the outdoors, hot chips and so on. As mentioned by Matt before, to the left is a placeholder for sports changing rooms. The central shared foyer area we see as being an engaging, buzzy area. The main space is all open into and off of the foyer space. We've got a community learning room adjacent, so again a multi-purpose space for smaller group activities with storage either side, flexible furniture, glazing through to some more landscaping on the other side. Back of house areas on the south side. The library faces that prominent street corner and will be the most visual aspect of the design. So a large open space, so it'll be quite airy for the library, and we've got that visual connection through to the community lawn, the plaza, and the existing playground beyond. So back of house includes office, processing spaces, storage, staff areas. Just a couple of, I didn't mention, a couple of smaller, again, meeting rooms off the library to, again, provide for even smaller groups. And indicatively, a cafe opening off the foyer space, serving the community lounge. Whether it's fitted out early on or space is provided, that's still up for discussion. And the community lounge and community space is open to a covered outdoor area with screens and louvers to provide protection from the elements. That's the plan. I might zoom in again. So important to us was the consideration that the spaces could be flexible. So I've just got a couple of examples of how the community space and foyer could be used. So we could have the current seating arrangement in the community rooms shows informal club night, for example. Next example shows how the space could be opened up, used as one space for a more formal setting with a speaker, with a backdrop of the sports fields and concentric seating. We can fit quite a lot more people into this configuration. It could spill out to the covered outdoor area. It could spill out into the foyer space. The whole facility could be considered as one entity, perhaps as a very large function. And so the library space could also be used for those one-off large functions served by the kitchen. Just an overview of the exterior forms. It was very important to the team that the building is grounded in the existing community. It references Leaston architecture with the gable forms, the verandas, which you see a lot of that along High Street. We really wanted it to feel like it was already part of the fabric of the community. So a few views here. One from that important street corner with the RSA to your right, views to the main entrance. Top right view is a view from the rugby pitch looking towards community spaces. The two gable forms, the larger one is the community rooms, the smaller one is an indicative form for the future changing rooms, and the veranda which wraps around. Bottom left view is a view towards the main entrance, and bottom right view is a view from Leaston Lake Road, car parking in front and the library beyond. The plaza space, again with being multi-purpose, front of mind, the outdoor area plaza could be used for a community market. We could set up stalls. It could be used for a very large gathering, Anzac Day, for example. The community lawn adjacent could also be used for that function. Day to day, it's likely to be used as a youth space with basketball half-court lines. And the outdoor covered area could accommodate school groups or park users, with flexible screens to protect from the prevailing winds. It could be a very large function, such as a wedding, with space to accommodate a marquee, to make the most of the indoor community spaces, the covered area, and potentially spreading out to the plaza. And lastly, a couple of views towards that covered area. On the left, the darker panels, these are the prominent area that we've reserved for incorporating the cultural narrative, whether that's panels of timber carved panels, or it could be corten steel, laser cut. It's a placeholder for now, but important that is at the main entrance. And then you'll see the veranda, the white veranda, which wraps around to reflect the local surrounds. The gable forms with inexpensive materials, so we're likely perhaps a metal cladding on the upper areas of the gables, brick and glazing on the lower levels, brick for durability. And that's my last page.
Is it just worth mentioning about your design intent with the architecture and the historic architecture down the main street and flowing into that?
So, yeah,
elevation?
absolutely. So that the gable forms on the main street, there's many examples of the gable forms, the wraparound verandas, and just making that connection. It's a modern version of what we already see there. So bringing in that identity of the local area and providing new.
Also too, with the cultural narrative, there has been a little bit closer. Yeah, sorry. Also too, with the cultural narrative, there's been a lot of work done over the past 3 or 4 years, and reports developed with different groups. So like Dulcie said, we haven't provided too much detail around that, but there's a lot of report and design in the background that will feed through that, into that once we get into prelim and detailed design. So, yeah, all right. Thank you, Dulcie. Over to you guys.
Cool. thank you for this. It's really great to see the work that's been done. I just wondered actually, and if the community reference group would indulge me, I'd be quite interested to hear from them the process that's been taken. You know, I have the questions around, has this been socialised with community? How are your people feeling about this? If that's appropriate. Come on up, team.
Just come up, Grant.
Apologies if I put you on the spot.
No,
But,
it's perfectly
You're all in the room.
So, good morning. My name is Grant Miller, Mike Lay, Dane West, Grant Clawson, and you know the rest. Unfortunately, Anthony French, Liz, and Bridget Rebellion couldn't be here today. But I've been fortunate to lead the community reference group, which has been tasked with providing the concept design for this absolutely long-desired, long-awaited final piece in the puzzle for the community infrastructure for Leaston. It's a bit like a floating iceberg. You're seeing the point of it today, but underneath the water, there's absolutely a huge amount of work, both by the previous council and the previous council before, to get to the stage, particularly around understanding need, because that's what was driven with need. And I think, just to indulge you, Lydia, one of the things that council discovered, and if we reference Ralston for a start off, is that when we put in infrastructure, particularly sewage, roads and water, we get a corresponding increase in housing. But the council's found that you also need to fix up the infrastructure that goes with it, particularly health provision and community provision. Leaston is in this situation, and we've done a great job. We as council has done a great job in solving environmental issues around water and sewage, and as a high school rebuild going on, Leaston is poised for significant growth and to be one of the already is a significant town, but further increase its significance. Part of that is requiring a fit-for-purpose library and community space, which Leaston unfortunately has never had. So the community reference group was tasked with being representative of the community, and I think it was representative of the community. They undertook a significant work program of understanding what good looked like, not just going out there and designing what we thought was good. So visited a significant number of exemplar facilities in person to understand what worked and what didn't work. So we went to numerous facilities, both in Selwyn and in Christchurch. We also did online tours of facilities, other exemplar facilities in New Zealand and Australia, to understand what worked and what didn't work and what would be advantageous. We also started to utilise the vast degrees of thematic analysis and community consultation that the council staff had also undertaken in the past about what the community wanted and what they didn't want. And at this point, probably I've really got to take my hat off to the community members, because they were the grassroots that understood what the community wanted. They were absolutely tenacious in providing attention to the process, which was really absolutely. I don't think Matt and his team found it enjoyable, but but that was part of the process. Having that tension, that community tension there about what did the community want, rather than what the council wanted, and there's a trade-off, and there's a meeting of minds, and where we've got to now is a concept design, which I understand has widespread community support, particularly from Runanga, particularly from potential users. And it's really got to the stage of everyone has just an absolute burning desire to put the design stage behind and start to pour the concrete. So I don't want to go on too long, but I'd like the opportunity for some of the community members to actually speak of their experience. Does it, Jane or Mike or Grant, do you want to?
Thanks. Yeah, no, look, it's this has been a long time coming for the Leaston community. There was, going back probably 24 months ago, there was a concept plan that was put out that fell short of meeting the requirements for the community, and the community at that stage rallied around, got together, and voiced their opinion on what they thought the community really needed. And so, as a community reference group, we've tried to bring those thoughts to the table. And as we say, there's been some tension around some of the discussions. Our brief for the reference group was to have a library and a community centre, and it to be situated at the park. And so we've walked through that. We've talked with various community groups along the way, quite a few community groups along the way. And more recently, when we've had this latest concept plan, we've socialised those plans with some key leaders in those groups, and that's met with resounding approval. In fact, we've had some meetings over the last, just as recently as this week, and where unanimous support from potential users was given. So that gives us great encouragement that what we've done as a reference group is meeting the needs of what the community had envisaged. As we said, it's been a very long process because this goes back over a good number of years. There's been a lot of analysis done by council over the time. I'm in possession of a needs analysis here, and I believe what was in the needs analysis that was done in 2020 by the council has been encapsulated in what's there with the current design. So it's a community facility we really need. Leaston supports a wider area. As Grant said, it's a growing area. We've got 220 sections coming on, and there needs to be a facility that's fit for purpose for the next 50 years. So that's, Jane, I don't know whether you've got anything you want to add to that.
Hi. I would only add to that, I endorse everything that Grant and Mike have said, but I've found myself involved with Ellesmere College rebuild. I've got two boys who, one's just finished and one's got a few more years, which is great. He might actually get into those new buildings, and looking through them and sort of being part of potential more fundraising for that site as well. The two builds and bringing through the new generations and all the new sections in Leaston and all the new room for all the new kids at the school, they're really complementary. So the two builds that are one that's underway and one that's hopefully soon underway is just gives you good fuzzies. It's the right feeling. It's what we need, and they just really do complement one another with all the different spaces that the whole community will use. That's probably all I would add other than you.
Yeah, Grant Clausen. I'd just like to congratulate the council staff for their input in this. As much as it's been mentioned, there's been a few touchy periods through our consultation with us wanting to do the best for our community. It's been fantastic support from the staff in giving us all the options available to us, and we've had Dulcie, who has just done the report for you. She's been on board for the last 12 months, and it's been a wonderful process. And we've had things that we've rejected and things that we've included for various reasons over the time, and it's been a great thing. So I believe that the outcome, as you see today, is what the community would like to see and would be grateful for, and I can believe it'll get a lot of use. And as has been mentioned, the population is growing there, and Leaston's been paying a community rate like everybody else for the last, whatever length of time, for the last 20 years. Leaston hasn't had a community centre and a professional library, let's say, even for that period of time either. So it's past due, and what we've produced will do the job. So yeah, it's been a very enjoyable process.
Thank you. Look, I appreciate the views. It's always hard at times when you hear conflicting views, and so it's always great to seek other advice from people that have been involved in it. And I think that's the great thing about a community reference group, is there is a holding to account of actually what is council doing and what does the community need. So I thank you for the time and effort that you have put into this project, which has been long-standing for time, and so again I'm very appreciative. I might leave it there for community reference group to allow time for staff to answer any questions from councillors. And so, councillors, the purpose of today is to ask questions for clarification. This is a briefing, and to give direction into staff of what your thoughts are on this. So happy to hear those and answer those questions. So, John.
Yeah, thank you. Just given the failures of some of the previous buildings, I'm sure, can you just give a little bit of an explanation about the design and the weatherproofing so that it'll stand there and won't need substantial repairs in the near future?
So obviously, as you guys are aware, there was a design completed by a previous team and architectural team and design team that, like the community reference group mentioned, that didn't sit palatably with the community. And I think maybe some of you are aware it was very much a triangular design that wasn't, like we've talked, very necessarily multi-purpose and flexible, and didn't serve all facets of the community. So that's when the team from the community reference jumped on board, and we've rationalised that design. Yeah, to your comments around weather tightness and buildability and all those sorts of things, we obviously have a great team of professionals and experience. We're still yet to get some of that team on board, but we're designing this for the future, for 40 plus years. So we've still got to go through some of those details. But coming from that background myself, they will be hot on the agenda. Certainly weather tightness is one of my pet peeves, I guess you would want to say. So it certainly will be high on the agenda. So we like Grant said, and Mike, we want this building to be there for the 40 plus years for this community. So they will be front of mind.
I wonder whether John's question falls a bit more into what our asset management plan is and maintenance schedule on our buildings. Might be the further question into that that might need exploring, John. Sophie.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to the reference group for coming in. That's really helpful to hear from you guys as well. And yeah, it does seem like a much more practical design than the last one, which was lovely, but this is more usable. Usable is good. This is what we need. So one question I had was around the community space. So a lot of our community centres, we have some of the other activities that happen there. Like it's not just clubs that meet there. And I wondered, is it considered to be suitable for things like dance and mini gym and some of those other activities that I'm not sure how they're delivered in Leaston anymore? Or, I mean, they're not all council activities. Sometimes they're private providers. Is that accommodated?
Yes, certainly. A lot of those facets of the design were covered in the thematic analysis, and as you'll see, brought through into this design with the flexible spaces. So a large sporting group or entity can utilise that whole community space, or it can be broken down into a smaller club or a yoga session or spin class, and right down to a knitting group or just a general meeting coming in off the street and renting out one of those smaller spaces. So, is there anything?
No, absolutely. That's the same answer I would have given.
Oh, well, perfect. Look at that.
Those larger spaces have been designed to break down for, the Meals on Wheels clubs as well as sporting clubs.
Nice, yeah. Cool. The other question I had was there's when you looking at the vertical view or the looking down on it, bit weird question, but there's a couple of toilets just next to the RSA. Are they part of the reserve development work? Because obviously that's not showing the existing toilets.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
There is a program of work, with the reserve going on behind the scenes as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much for coming in, and thanks to the reference group. Well done on the broad community cross-section. It's fantastic. In terms of, I love that it's a multi-use space, lots of flexibility and sustainability within that. Just thought given to security of the library space when you've got private users potentially in the other part of the library. I'm thinking sort of evening events happening in that other sort of community space, and there's sort of one entrance into that whole area. What consideration is there for, I guess, security?
Yeah, there certainly has been a lot of thought put into that process with the community services team and venues and libraries. And like Dulcie mentioned before, hence we've spent a lot of time in the community reference group, a lot of time around that centralisation of the reception area.
Yep.
So we need that vision all the way through into the library, and where it's situated, we can spin around and we have that vision through to the community spaces as well. And the way we've set up, as you can sort of see there, I know it's hard and small, but there's secure doors, 2 secure doors leading through into the processing rooms and spaces and storerooms for staff.
Views from the library desk, they're hard to see. We've included a glazed portion of the wall here so that we can see. It will have obscure manifestation, but you'll be able to see movement within the room. You'll be able to see what's happening in the meeting room at the bottom here. Views to the digital screens so we can be aware of anything untowards on the screens. Good view to the tamariki, make sure the children are okay. And then, yes, that central location and the curve of the desk as well means that from that single point, if there's not many staff on, there will be views to all the public spaces.
So the intent would be that it would be staffed all the time. Whenever there's a function on in there, there would be sort of a staff member there. I'm just sort of thinking, if you've got a wedding on and it's 11 o'clock at night and you've got people coming across to the bathroom areas, is there a way to shut off that library space, or is it going to be fully staffed? Sorry, that might be detail.
There has been some thought. I'll pass over to Catherine with that.
Hi. So yes, there has been a lot of thought about that, and the intention is that the community spaces would be able to operate as unstaffed facilities.
Right.
So that would mean that a staff member is not required to be there at all times that an event is operating. The intention when we're talking about the security of the spaces is that certain areas would be able to be locked off if needed for that security side, while we also need to balance that with the multi-purpose idea so that we can actually use the library space for events if we need to really utilise the whole facility. So yes, able to lock areas off, people will be able to access the facility or the spaces that they're supposed to outside of any normal operating hours.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah. Cool.
Well, it also CCTV throughout the building and around the building, swipe card type access, that general sort of thing, and also the main entrance will be through that lobby. The rear door will be more of a fire exit or service access, so essentially staff will see people coming through that front door and won't be caught by surprise from behind, so to speak.
Awesome.
And also, which wasn't quite touched on, which wouldn't have been because operational earlier, the intention when the community spaces aren't going to be hired out for a private function is that they're actually going to be open and available for people to use freely through the facility. So if you are a local knitting group and you haven't booked a room or a specific location, you're welcome to find your space within the facility. So we really want to activate the whole building where we can.
Cool. Awesome. Other quick question just on timing for the changing room. You sort of said future. Is that sort of outside of the original timeline you've got here?
No, it's all included
All
within this
included.
time frame. It was just added to this project sort of in the latter months. We have gone through, admittedly, some design and some concept design with the community reference group, and it's really just sort of a nutting out the change room sort of numbers, sizes and toilets and that sort of thing.
Cool.
Hence, we kind of really didn't want to sort of show you what we've been up to until we're all happy with the outcome.
Great, awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Sarah. Samuel?
Morning. My biggest interest is boring, really boring. Looking at the elevations that we've got here, I'm just wanting to press the fact that depth of flashing, really want to see some decent apron flashings on. Love the practical design, but it seems like a lot of our community buildings are pushing for a minimisation of flashing coverage, which, I think is going to come back to bite us in the future when silicon lets go. So that's one thing. The other, 475 people is the capacity for fire compliance. Is that what I caught on?
You're correct. There's different methods of calculating that with a schedule or actual, and the two numbers that are given in the range are the minimum and maximum of those calculations.
Cool. And are we expecting people predominantly to walk there?
All facets of transport, I guess. To answer the question, there is car parking immediately there. There's car parking on the street. There's future car parking intended for the site. There'll be bike parking, all that sort of thing. So I guess walking from the school, walking from the main street, all facets of transport.
Because I only asked that because 22 parking spaces for 475 people seems a little light.
Yeah,
That's all.
it is.
Is there a plan in the future to add more parking?
Yes, there is space, what we call the Caritas site, but in the I'm going to flick to it at the rear of the reserve development. So that sort of big rectangular block there that building's been demoed. There is a tent for a future parking and possibly sports fields or a redevelopment of that site.
Awesome. And commend the practical design of it. Love the gables. I just would like to suggest that perhaps in the future we don't be so frightened of eaves. They make for a great building envelope, and they get the wet wobbly stuff on the outside, not the inside. But yeah, no, it looks cool. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Tracy?
I've got two quick questions. I'm looking at the layout that is when the whole space is being used with tables and stuff. Where does the library go?
Do you want to?
That's a great question. So modern libraries are all the shelving is built so that it's on wheels, so it will all be able to be easily moved, and the digital areas are on the outside so that it will leave a free and open space.
But where are you moving the shelves to?
Round to the perimeter of the
edges of the room, you mean?
Yes, that's the word.
Okay. And the other one, is this design allowing for the potential that the library would actually have to expand into the other community space as the population grows, or is the expectation that in 30 to 50 years that library space will be sufficient as it's designated for the population?
I'll start. So some of the central space is going to be treated as library space. So we'll have things like the magazine rack out there. Some of the programming will be out there, as will the programming be in the community rooms as well. So that a lot of the the functions of the library will be out in the other spaces as well. As to future growth of the site, I can't answer that.
I think the intent with that rather larger shared space is that it's engaged through the library, the cafe, magazines, kids sitting out there, etc. So it's designed as a very flexible space rather than a hallway or so. Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
So everybody's confident that in 30 to 50 years' time, this will still serve the needs of the community based on its projected population growth, and then adding another 5% to that because the forecasts aren't always great, that this will still serve that purpose in 30 to 50 years.
At the current projections, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Aaron.
Thanks very much. I'm a numbers person, so I'm going to dig into the numbers. So we're halfway through 25-26. You've got a budget of 4.7 million and you've spent about 1% of that. How realistic is it that we're going to spend 4.66 million in 6 months, especially as we're leading into the Christmas shutdown, and to do that responsibly and efficiently?
The answer is we don't plan to spend that much in the next calendar year. In the next calendar year, we will be completing our design. Are you talking financial year or calendar year, sorry?
Looks like financial year according to your chart.
Okay, financial year. We will spend approximately about around $1 million through till the end of February and the end of November in design, and then as we start into site, we will spend approximately, I think it was $4 million. So that's you're about right for the financial year calculation of 4.66.
So this chart is showing financial year that'll end in June 26, not November.
Okay.
So the current numbers you're seeing there are the ones that are represented in the third year of the LTP. So what we have coming to council at some stage will be a revision within the annual plan. So the annual plan has been reforecast to take account of what the actual spend will be. So you're absolutely right to point that out. We will still be in design phase, so the level of spend will be low, but that is forecast in the revised annual plan.
Thank you. That's reassuring. We're not going to rush. Another question. I'm not an expert in building, but 17 million's a lot of money. So per square metre, that's sort of roughly 15,000 a square metre if I do my maths. I reached out to someone at Christchurch City Council and asked what their costs of building are, and I got figures of 5,000 a square metre as sort of standard for a sort of box standard sort of building, maybe going up to 7,000 or 8,000 per square metre for something that's a bit more architectural and fancy, if you want, for want of a better word. So how do I know that we're getting good value for money here?
So like we stated before, the entire project budget that was approved in the last LTP was $1,601 million. Like I said, there's been land purchases, demolition and stuff since. So there was $14.6 million left with an estimate of 14.11. And that what you're calculating is a total project cost, and what maybe your friends at Christchurch City are calculating build costs.
No, I double checked because I thought that might be the reason, and they assured me total cost, including the basic fit out, not including things like library shelves, which are a bit specialist.
Yeah, sure. So our QS and the team have done a lot of benchmarking across similar facilities throughout New Zealand that are being built or been built currently. So we are very comparable to those figures. I think, from memory off the top of my head, we're sitting at a build cost of $8,856 a square metre, which is within the range. So again, we're at a concept design phase with 8 months to go of optioneering, costing, and value engineering. So
yeah, good. Do we always go with an architect quantity surveyor approach? Do we ever consider whether we get a design build, here's the whole package?
There's been some fairly robust conversations about all of the different avenues or with procurement, and certainly they were with the community reference group. There's been some pretty robust conversations about even ECI design and build, but the team and with feedback from I guess the industry, we have sought a more traditional approach for this. We have a construction market out there that's screaming for work, and we feel that the traditional lump sum type approach it will get us the best value and the best end result for a library.
Okay, thank you.
I think the thing is that it's a budget, not a target, and I think that's something that maybe community reference group. I might be putting words in your mouth, but it is a budget, not a target, and I guess there's some expectation of potential value engineering through that the actual design phase, because this is a concept, right? You actually are estimating all the costs associated with this build, and until you get the finer details, you can't start to firm up what that per square metre rate is, right?
Correct. At a typical concept design stage, there is risk allowed for contamination, foundation types, and as we get through the different phases, prelim design, developed design, detailed design, a lot of those risks will be identified, and a lot of those contingencies either released back as into the project, as savings, or however the team sort of see fit.
Okay. Thank you. Denise.
Hi. You've preempted what I was going to say about the cost, because to me it just seems quite high. And in the context, this is just a statement, but in the context of population, Leiston is, I just quickly looked this up, the rough figures, 2,470, but Prebbleton's 6,000, Lincoln's 12,000. I know Leiston is a service town and it does need these facilities, but I just wonder if the price that's being put on this is too high. And my other question is, have you considered storage? Because this seems to be coming up across all of our area, that all the clubs and people that use these facilities have got nowhere to store anything, and it's becoming quite an issue. Have you considered that in this building design?
Yes, storage is always a hot topic, and especially when you're catering for a wide array of clubs and different factions of the community. So there is storage allowed in the building. There is also a lot of storage to come in the green square and the change rooms, and also that I guess alleyway will be a covered alleyway between the two buildings that will be lockable for sports goals, post bags, rugby tackle bags and what have you. So there is more storage to come, and yes, it is a hot topic.
Cool. Thank you. I'll just go to Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. Councillors, thank you for your questions around cost. I just want to reiterate what the team up the front is saying around procurement as well. There's been a really thorough process around procurement and making sure we've got the right procurement process. And there's also been a thorough process around cost assessments. So we've had QSs and they've looked at a number of different examples to make sure we're getting value for money. The piece around value engineering isn't complete yet. There's still value engineering to do through the detailed design phase. But it was a pretty tough gig for the team. We had a budget of $16.1 million, and we feel that the work that the CRG have done and the team have landed on a really good outcome and a building that is an appropriate size for the community, taking into consideration growth, but we didn't have an endless budget, and what you're seeing up here today is the best outcome, I think, for those growth projections, for the commitment that we made to the community in regard to this facility. So we're also really happy to sit down with you, I think, and if you want more detail or you want to understand better the process that we've been through around procurement, around that cost assessment. If you're interested in that, Aaron, then we could sit down and give you more detail on that.
Thank you, Tim. Big Red.
Oh, probably the most important question of all, what's the name going on the side of the building?
Undecided yet.
Well, it probably, you know, we've already dealt with it.
Well, it has a building name of Whātaro that has been gifted by Mana Whenua that is relevant to the community of Leiston.
So then I've just done a bit of Googling. There's several meanings for it. What does it mean?
Happy to share that with you. I've got the documentation all there if you would like.
And last one, Elizabeth.
Look, as the Ellesmere councillor, it's quite a difficult conversation to have because on the one hand we've got a community who have been waiting for a long time to have something built, and I think given the climate and the current election process where we were promised to deliver a very fiscally prudent council, I think that there's an expectation that they would like it done sooner rather than later to ensure that they are getting something built. But I am not one to do knee-jerk building decisions. I believe that we need to be a council that actually really puts in the hard graft and ensures, and I know there's been a lot of work done, but things have changed. One of the things that's very significant to the decisions, in my opinion, is that we're having an overhaul of the earthquake-prone building systems, and that's going to be, the government's actually saying late this year, but we're already late, so it's not now, early next year, but potentially, in reality, probably over the next 6 months, we'd expect to see those changes. We've got the decision, some direction coming to us this afternoon on the previous library building. Now, I know that there's been some staff earmarking that for a medical facility, but that's not been a direction of the councillors. And we know that there's varying opinions around the community about what the different buildings should be used for and located. I would actually like to pause this decision and wait until we have the earthquake-prone building system legislation come back to council. In an ideal world, and this is what I think that we should be doing as a council that's very thorough and robust in our decisions, is that we allow our community to be involved in town plan that overlaps the area plan and gives us the ability to feed into all the building decisions in the district at one time, because we need to know what's happening with the rugby club. Does the rugby club need to come onto Whātaro? Do they not? We need to know, do we want to continue the library in its previous position or do we not? We've got medical facility decisions that we need to make. Those have not come to council yet. I think that we are rash to be building a building here and a building there and not bringing everything together under one roof and making that decision unilaterally. So I would hope that I'd have support from other councillors for a pause. We can still be working through things in the background.
Can I just?
I'm
very sorry to interrupt, but this is a briefing, so we're not making a decision today. And actually, part of the annual plan pack is you will get to make decisions on what our budgets and forecasts look like through that process. Denise, could you please take your microphone off? Thank you.
Denise. Oh, yeah, thank you. So what my understanding is today we're giving directions to whether we continue to spend on a design build. So I'm saying, why would we be spending on a design at this point and moving forward when we are still waiting for those other decisions to be made? And I think they need to be made unilaterally. And the community want to be involved in a town plan for the whole district that gives us that long-term feed.
If I might just clarify, today is a briefing. There are no decisions or directions being sought. The team have presented to you the implementation of a decision from council and they're just showing you how they're implementing it. I think they've described where the project is at, and you've had the community reference group also be part of this presentation today. There are no decisions. This is a briefing. Probably, if there is another matter, we can discuss after.
Thank you. I might actually leave it there in the essence of time. We are cutting into Selwyn Water Limited's update. But I think what today is showing is there needs to be further discussion here. And look, I appreciate this is showing the concept plan, the work that has been done with the community reference group so that councillors can be aware of what is on the table. And then we follow through with our annual plan decision making with the information that you'll receive on the 17th of December to take away over the Christmas break, to come back on the 21st to work through that. And so ultimately you will be making decisions on further process then. So I thank you for your time. We will break there, and actually I might just give it 15 minutes and we will do Selwyn Water Limited all together into one package instead of splitting that up into the two. Thank you. Right, everyone, welcome back. We'll continue on with our briefing. We have Selwyn Water Limited up next, so a big thank you to Murray Strong and Alex Cabrera from Selwyn Water, and we also have our board members here, John, Linda and Karen, present with us, so that's wonderful to have everybody in the room together. So I'll hand over to you, Murray.
Thanks, Lydia, and good morning, councillors. I hope your information gathering process since you've sat around this table is progressing well, and we're here to provide you with some more detailed information and focus on the role that Selwyn Water is playing on your behalf as our shareholder. We appreciate the chance to spend some more time with you. We've got about a 15 or 20 minute presentation which I'll walk you through, and then I'm happy to take questions from you. I understand from Mayor Lydia that there's been some Q&A documents already circulated, so we're happy to expand on any of those should you wish, and take any new questions that you might have of us. And just want to sort of flag too that we expect and hope that this will be just one of the first and of ongoing conversations that we have with you as our shareholder. We have a quite serious work program which we'll talk about in some more detail for you shortly, but having your support in terms of our endeavours will be an important part of our success, as will our opportunity to extend that invitation that I made last time to have you join us and have a tour around some of the facilities and sites that we use, so that you can get well under the hood of what we do and how we do it, and some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities that we can see for Selwyn Water and the provision of fresh and wastewater services to ratepayers and customers across the Selwyn district. From the outset, I just wanted to make the point that residential ratepayers and commercial customers are at the centre of the decision making for Selwyn Water. And whilst there will necessarily be trade-offs in a resource-constrained environment, the first filters that we apply to those decisions will be, will it be best for our ratepayers and those who pay water rates and charges? So this morning, what I thought I would do is talk you through the key elements of our work, the already agreed manner that we will work with you as our shareholder, the nature of the regulatory and compliance environment within which we operate. And of course, as you've seen over the last 72 hours, it's starting to get a little more complex and a little more uncertain. Our immediate areas of focus, the funding and treasury functions that we have at our disposal to build a long-term sustainable set of water infrastructure around the district, and how we will set the trajectory for the next few years with the development of our water services strategy, which you will also be a part of as we build it. So to quickly cover off our role for you, we've been deliberately structured to deliver secure, accessible, safe and reliable water services throughout the district. And our water schemes and wastewater schemes are summarised on the slide in front of you. But through that approach of delivering that secure, affordable and future-ready water services, we are aiming to do a number of things. The first is to reduce operating and capital costs. The second is to improve asset performance and operational productivity, to support whatever the long-term plan of this council is around economic growth and housing, to strengthen climate resilience and sustainable performance with regard to the environment, make a contribution to building long-term sector capability across water, and obviously we're part of a wider national reform, so we have a role to play in supporting that activity as well on your behalf. Our establishment and operationalisation are occurring at pace and at different speeds though. And our current priorities and challenges I thought might be useful just to note for you in this introductory part of the presentation. We are now close to finalising organisational design and managing the transition from legacy structures into the new entity. We're strengthening internal capability and workforce engagement, and we've had, I would characterised as a very successful transition of the team into Selwyn Water. We're going to be focusing on deepening our external relationships with local runanga and other stakeholders, including developers, commercial ratepayers, and of course residents and ratepayers. We need to be ready to respond to rapid and ongoing population and infrastructure growth, all within a compliance-heavy environment, which means that we've also required to meet those increasing regulatory expectations and reporting standards, and I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, and progressing from individual projects to a coherent, aligned capital infrastructure program, all the while walking alongside you and navigating local government reform, which is going to be continually challenging from where we sit. So these things are being managed and implemented on a short-term basis, but with a long-term view to the future around sustainability and what the Selwyn district could and should look like. And we're in this together. You're our shareholder, and we are beholden to you. We serve at your pleasure, and our role is to make sure that we deliver for ratepayers within the framework that you have set as our shareholder. That's reflected in the statement of expectations that you will have a copy of. And part of the foundation of that working relationship is that there are no surprises either way. And you will note from that statement of expectation that there's a requirement upon us to make sure that if there are risks to the success of the capital program or any other particular material risks, that we alert you to those as soon as possible and as practical, and we will do so. That statement of expectation puts obligations on both of us, as it rightly should. Additionally, though, the directors who are here with me today have additional obligations under the Companies Act that go far beyond some of the liabilities that might appear under the Local Government Act. And the directors, we take that quite seriously, in fact, very seriously. We've had a conversation this morning during our board meeting around the financial status of the organisation as we go through to conclude transition and the wash-up period to take us through to the end of the financial year, June 2026, and they are in sharp relief for us. And of course, as per your briefing with Simpson Grierson, there will be a series of other pieces of legislation that we're also required to meet. Those are the Local Government Act, obviously the Public Finance Act, and a range of other pieces of legislation. One of the key elements of our work program that's coming up is the development of the water services strategy. It's the foundational roadmap that will ensure safe, reliable and accessible water services for our community, not only now but for decades into the future. The development of that strategy is underway, and we are targeting publication of that in May 2026. We'll produce the first water services strategy in the country under these current reforms, and you as our shareholder have a role to play in reviewing, considering and providing feedback to the board of Selwyn Water Limited on that work. The draft of that is well underway, and the team have been doing an excellent job in preparing the groundwork for the board's discussions that will start early in 2026. In terms of that no surprises approach, the statement of expectations outlines those elements for both of us to adhere to, and we will engage early with Selwyn District Council as the shareholder on any key decisions, and including an outline of the proposed approach to community consultation, which I'll also spend a little bit more time about shortly. Already the executive team members meet on a weekly basis in an operational working group format to deal with any issues that might arise, to log any opportunities that might exist that need to be considered in the future, and also to make sure that we're across the details of what will be the largest single transaction in Selwyn District Council's history. Our CEs meet monthly, and they will continue to do so for the first 12 months under the SOE. And the Mayor, Mayor Lydia and I have quarterly Mayor and Chair meetings, and of course we are regular reporting to you as full council as per outlines in the SOE. The statement of expectations also provides guidance on how we, as your CCO, should engage with stakeholders in the wider community. And we'll be doing that once we have the asset transfer process completed and we've developed our significant and engagement policy, which will guide the way that the board and the organisation will interact with its stakeholders, including you, obviously, as our shareholder. We operate in a regulation and compliance heavy environment, and that will be challenging as the system effectively changes what it expects of water service delivery across the country. And the new National Wastewater Environmental Performance Standards that were published on the 20th of November and come into force on the 19th of December are an example of how quickly and rapidly that compliance framework is evolving. And we expect to receive a summary of the impacts that that will have on Selwyn Water later this week. But early indications are that standards will lift expectations for discharge performance, for monitoring and environmental outcomes. And that may require adjustments to our staged reconsenting program and long-term investment planning. So the environment is shifting quickly. There's a degree of uncertainty, but the general direction, I think, is clear in terms of the expectations that are upon us as a provider of water services for the Selwyn District. And of course, as per your briefing with Simpson Grierson earlier, we're also subject to the economic regulatory framework that's overseen by the Commerce Commission, and that has to do with the way that we price water services charges. A utilities company approach is a different way for us to deal with the water services provision. And it begins with a very solid understanding of the service provision that we're providing and what are the services to our customers that they want, and making sure that that attitude is reflected in the way that we build the organisation. Recognition of true cost is part of this as well, and we know that there are challenges in a rates increase constrained environment, but a carefully weighed and considered decision-making process with the relentless pursuit of value for money sits at the centre of the way that we're operating, alongside making sure that our focus is on customers, whether they be residential ratepayers or commercial customers. I'd like to spend a little bit more time talking about some of the accountability piece. We take this very seriously as an organisation. We've all seen and read probably examples and heard stories about how some councils have deferred interest payments on loans to keep rates artificially low. Those sorts of things are a false economy. And ultimately what they do is they just kick the can down the road for future generations. So as a result, operating in a financially and fiscally constrained environment means that we'll have to make some trade-offs along the way. One of the ways that we can improve that decision-making, both in terms of speed and appropriateness, is build a very solid data foundation and analyse the information that we have at our disposal to make more informed decisions. An example is more consistent, regular water meter reading is probably one of the most sensible cases in point. At the moment, it's done on a reasonably infrequent basis, which has two challenges. The first is ratepayers who are paying those charges often get a bill shock. If they're only getting 1 or 2 bills a year, they're often quite big. If we can increase the frequency of those meter reads, what that also enables us to do is spread the cost for ratepayers, but it also enables us to have a much more demand-led approach to costing and building the capital program for the future. So if we know that demand is going to be higher in a particular area at a particular time of the year relative to somewhere else, we can then make an informed decision around risk and the requirements for renewal or replacement and building new infrastructure. Selwyn Water won't be operating in a manner that seeks to disguise or defer costing. We have a long-term 35-year program in mind, and we need to make sure that as we take on any external debt through the Local Government Funding Authority or deal with any existing debt that transfers from Selwyn District Council to Selwyn Water, that we do so in a manner that is sensible and prudent and in alignment with your expectations as a shareholder and obviously the various pieces of legislation, including the Companies Act that the directors are subject to. One of the key areas that we have identified that we can have an immediate impact on is how we can engage more directly with our customers and our ratepayers. And we are committed, and we've had this conversation with you previously, to ongoing and regular face-to-face communication and discussions with ratepayers and stakeholders. Alex, who's the Chief Executive here, has already been speaking with a number of community boards. He's spoken with the developer community and the like, and that's really just the beginning of a very proactive approach to customer service and engagement. In addition to what you see on the screen in front of you, we're also looking to develop and embed another series of innovations that include schools and learning partnerships, building water literacy across the district so that people can understand that there are careers to be had in water services provision. The developer and industry forums that I've referenced mean that we can develop a shared understanding of network capacity and future requirements, and most importantly, the sequencing of any infrastructure planning so that we have an affordable and sensible approach to development. Obviously, there are a bunch of other opportunities that exist for us in terms of community events and pop-ups, whether they be attending A&P shows, markets, evening sessions, providing the opportunity for there to be feedback loops through the website, and by providing real-time data to customers, giving them the chance to be more actively involved in how they manage, use and conserve their own water services. And one of the things which is particularly interesting to me, given one of my other roles, I chair a video game investment company, is how we can actually provide, in a way, gamified water information services to kids and families and schools to actually give them a real-time advantage and opportunity to participate in understanding how water works, what it's required for, the sort of decisions that are made to build infrastructure to support ongoing growth in communities and families across the district. So those engagement opportunities are significant, and we've got an in-depth planning session coming up early in January 2026, where we'll build on the work that Nisha and the comms team within Selwyn Water have already put in place to deliver those initiatives. This doesn't come cheap, though. And as you'll understand from some of your earlier papers, the funding and financial sustainability of Selwyn Water is a mission-critical success factor that we need to drive our activities towards. Previously, Selwyn District Council borrowed from the Local Government Funding Authority based on operating revenue, which doesn't include capital revenue or development contributions or non-cash revenue vested assets. So we are now able, under the new reforms and with the lending covenants from LGFA, to use a portion of the development contribution revenue that we collect to add to the operating revenue, which increases our ability to borrow more, but we don't want to borrow everything. We need to take a sensible, prudent fiscal approach to this. And due to the size of the Selwyn district, we're in a position to use 50% of our development contributions revenue as part of operating revenue for the purposes of that limit with LGFA. That has been used in the modelling for the Water Services Delivery Plan, which was approved earlier in 2025. And we'll use that to do some additional modelling for our water services strategy, which you will receive a draft of early in the new year. It's probably useful to note that that Water Services Delivery Plan was a snapshot of water service delivery in Selwyn at a particular point in time. as we have worked over the last 5 or 6 months, we've got a much clearer sense of the costs, the assets, the liabilities that are associated with water service provision, fresh and waste, across the district. So there's continual updating and remodelling from a financial perspective of what those things will look like, and we'll be sharing that information with you as our shareholder as soon as we are able to with an early draft. There's some big numbers on the slide, and when I look at the expected revenue, if I just perhaps highlight the difference between financial year 25-26 and financial year 26-27. The reason it's roughly half is that we're only accounting for the second half of this financial year as revenue for Selwyn Water. If it was the full year, it would be closer to the $58 million mark. So it's only a 6-month. So the 26-27 year is the first full financial year in terms of revenue. With our capital works program, obviously there's a fair bit going on at the moment. There's approximately 60 million of work going on with projects across the district. This underway or currently completed is about 40 million of that, with the balance being upcoming projects that are slated for starting and completion. The debt position, so we will be taking on $133 million worth of Selwyn District Council debt onto the Selwyn Water Limited balance sheet. And that may change, it might change up, it might change down once we have closing balances that are finalised after the transfer and the wash-up period for the first 2 quarters of 2026. The borrowing capacity is estimated at this stage simply because we don't have the year-end position from 30 June 2026. So it's a well-educated and well-formulated projection, and there are some improvements on that already relative to the Water Services Delivery Plan. So for Selwyn Water Limited, the hallmarks of success for a capital program will become more evident over time. A future-proofed water capital program balances long-term demand realism, adaptable engineering, financially durable funding, digital intelligence and disciplined governance. Overall, it's encapsulated in excellent service delivery performance. But at a more granular level, it includes long-term demand and climate-adjusted planning. It includes resilient, modular and adaptable asset design. We don't need to be winning design awards for the best-looking pump house. We just need it to work. We will be working on strong commercial, financial and funding strategies, digital enablement and data-driven asset management, so real-time review on performance and what sort of renewal and replacement we might need to sequence, and obviously clear governance, capability and delivery discipline. And in the water space, water that meets the required standards of safety, whether fresh or waste, have to result in improved outcomes for customers and our communities. They also have to be able to evidence that the vision for safe, reliable and accessible water and wastewater services has been advanced. So we need to continually be moving towards achieving the vision. I don't think we'll ever actually achieve it because the trajectory will change over time, but as long as we're continually advancing and working on the vision, we'll be delivering for our customers. So as a counterfactual, and for the sake of clarity, a successful capital program is not one that merely and rather bluntly points to a percentage of budget spent. It has to drive outcomes for customers and ratepayers. And it's much more nuanced than that rather blunt commentary, as it should be. Delivery discipline for Selwyn Water begins with things like smarter procurement, begins with solid, robust commercial contract management, and that includes us being a good client. We were talking about this at the board meeting this morning. In order for us to extract maximum value for ratepayers, having a contract that works well for the contractor and the client and ultimately the shareholder and our ratepayers is an important part of how that works. I might have also mentioned this to you previously when we last met, but I'd just like to raise it again. A series of decision filters that we apply within Selwyn Water are based on the phrases valuable and unique. So if something is valuable and unique, we want to own it, nurture it, care for it, invest in it, and protect it. If it's valuable but not unique, then we'll look to outsource it or partner with others to get what we need. And if it's neither valuable nor unique, we'll leave it behind. So this is about focusing our effort and attention on getting the right capability, the right skills, the right planning, and the right program of work in place as quickly as possible for as little cost as we can. So expected revenue, and these are some of the future benefits that we've identified already. We think that by improved revenue collection and by ensuring all users are paying their fair share, that we might find there's some more money out there that we might not have had access to previously. We know that we'll have an improved debt position through greater transparency and enhancement around prioritising areas of expenditure against very clear criteria. So this isn't just something that's made up on the fly. It has to be purposeful excellence and deliberate choice to give us the best outcomes that we have. And as I've already mentioned, enhanced capital delivery by changing our approach to procurement and commercial contract management will assist in that alongside long-term planning and shareholder and community engagement. So we're creating a new operating environment and we have a laser focus on fresh and wastewater standards that are coming out of central government. So as you know, we have Taumata Arawai, the Water Services Regulator, the Commerce Commission, Department of Internal Affairs, and obviously LGFA supporting appropriate use of those resources. So all of those things put us into a position where there are a lot of people who are looking, a lot of information that needs to be prepared, and a lot of information that will be shared publicly with our customers and with our ratepayers. So our current work program is focused on the asset transfer process. And as I mentioned in my earlier commentary, this will be the single largest transaction for the Selwyn District Council in its history. And as your CCO, we are committed and energised to make sure that that transition is successful on the 18th of December. It's difficult work, but it's exciting work too, simply because we have the opportunity to create a new baseline for how fresh and wastewater services are delivered across the district. The asset management system is scheduled to transition to our cloud environment on the 1st of February, and the customer and billing system and functions remain on track for the 1st of July for 2026. And following receipt of an updated transfer suite of documentation and the supporting schedules from SDC at the end of November, we've commenced a very detailed review. I should note that whilst those schedules are broad and deep, what we have agreed with you as our shareholder is that for the first 2 quarters of 2026, we have a period of time to finalise and confirm and fill up any gaps or holes and ask any further questions of you so that when we get to the 1st of July, when we become responsible for billing, that there are no surprises lurking for anybody who receives water charges or water rate bills from the council or Selwyn Water. While the materials reflect a really positive series of steps and some enormous progress over the last 8 months or so, I'll just flag with you a couple of areas that we're continuing to focus our effort and attention on. We are making sure that we have a capital program and project schedules that are accurate, including as-built diagrams that give us the information that we need. We will make sure that we have a complete list of developer agreements and obligations, both on Selwyn District Council that are transferring to Selwyn Water and on those developers. Obviously, we have a full schedule of shared services, which is incorporated in the shared services agreement and the transition services agreement that are already in place. But that extends, obviously, to work with SCADA, HR, Health and Safety and IT. We're working to confirm the contract position with Cord, and there's some progress that's been made on that most recently, which is encouraging. And then there's the small waters piece of work that's continuing to be worked on. So those bits of information are critical for the Selwyn Water Limited directors to meet their obligations under the Companies Act, particularly in relevance to solvency, liquidity and risk management at the point of transfer. And as per the SOE, a consolidated feedback report will be provided to you as the shareholder once transition is complete, so that we have the opportunity to continue to work with you to make sure that we've got the right and appropriate baseline for what we do next. So in my view, we are well positioned already to deliver a step change in how water services are planned, managed and delivered for our customers and ratepayers. Smart metering, real-time network visibility and other digital enhancements will support customer transparency and provide us with the opportunity to develop proactive network management. We continue to be well placed once asset transfer is concluded to demonstrate significant local benefit and the opportunity for us to drive operational efficiencies within the new organisation. We have some immediate challenges around service level improvements, and we've identified these with the Selwyn District Council team, so they move their way to the front end of the queue. And for those of you who have yet to visit the Pines, you will understand that it's an incredibly critical and important part of our infrastructure for wastewater service delivery. And we need to make sure that we have the right levels of investment for future growth in that wastewater treatment plant to support residents and businesses. Similarly, we have some infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And one of the things that we're going to be able to do through better data and analytics is use a real-time risk-based assessment approach to sequencing correctly the capital programs as we put them in play across the district. And there are a range of other systems and processes that we are looking to work with partners on to embed ways of working smarter and faster and more efficiently, effectively from a cost perspective for network monitoring, data analytics, and we're working with Datacom through their Datascape process and series of products and services on that basis. So this is my second to last slide, and then we'll welcome questions from you. 2026 is going to be a busy year. The team thought 2025 was busy. 2026 is going to be 2025 on speed. So our priorities are captured in these 6 bullet points. Once the asset transfer is complete, we will have the opportunity to then speak directly to the customers across the Selwyn District about Selwyn Water, what it is, what it does, how it can help. And as we lead into the first time that we go through the billing process, which will be in July 2026, being able to provide people with information in an easily digestible sense will go a long way to building that awareness. We want to be speaking to our customers, and that's part of the utilities approach that we're putting in play here. Secondly, there's broader community and council engagement. So we've worked exceptionally closely with the SDC team as we've gone through this transition process, leading to transfer at the end of this month. And we'll continue to do that on a regular basis with you at a governance to governance level as councillors, as shareholders of Selwyn Water Limited, and obviously through the operational working group and their regular meetings between Mayor Lydia and myself and our respective chief executives. We're continuing to build the internal systems and capabilities for servicing our community, and we want to make sure that people have the ability to access and utilise those services whenever they need them. Obviously, there is a website that's currently in a reasonably static state. We want to start to ramp that up in terms of its interactivity and being able to use social media channels that Nisha and her team are working on to support that communication. We will be coming to you to seek your feedback on the water services strategy. It's the board's responsibility to develop it and use all of the information that's coming across to us as part of the asset transfer process to inform it, and then align that with the changing regulatory and compliance framework that we are all aware of. And obviously then we have our key reports that are due to you as the shareholder, half-yearly report, in addition to some of the monthly reports that are already in play, the due diligence report, and to walk you through our capital works program. So there's quite a bit of work to be done, but I and the rest of the board and Alex are lucky that we have a very, very capable team of people. We look forward to continuing to deliver that service utility approach to how we engage with customers. We continue to look forward to working with SDC and to making sure that we deliver the best that we can for our customers and ratepayers. So thank you for listening. We're happy to take questions.
Thank you, Murray. I was just jotting down some notes there and thinking about statement of expectations and half-yearly reporting and everything, and you're right, it's going to be a very busy 2026 by the time we work through or receive half-yearly reports, updates on the transfer, so through the wash-up period, and then go into what would be our draft statement of expectations in March. So we have a lot to work through together over the coming months, and also booking in site tours as well. So we're currently just trying to work out a schedule for the new year and that to be out and visit, and especially Pines, I think, is good for people to have eyes on. I think the thing that has sort of flagged with me through this is you talk about operational efficiencies, and I think what would be really good to understand, and maybe this is for councillors and not just councillors but our community as well, is with those operational efficiencies, when will you start to see that reflected in the cost to consumers?
Yes, thank you, Murray. It's a good time to hand over. So we already started to see some of those improvements now, and I would like to acknowledge the way that the management at SDC have been working with us. I mean, it's been very open and transparent, and I always say this is like kind of when you're moving homes, right? So sometimes you open a cupboard and you forgot, that you had those, boxes in there, things, and by the time you open up, it gives you some idea. So the work that we have done has been about kind of doing that, getting that deep understanding of how things work, sometimes providing some links between the different parts. It's probably fair to say that council have grown really, really fast, and there's lots of kind of manual processes or processes that perhaps haven't been documented well enough. It relies heavily on kind of individuals. So because we have this greenfield approach, we decided to learn from all of that. Most of those kind of ideas have come from the kind of joint discussions with the council, but have given us an opportunity to, if we were to start again, how would you build this? Murray talked about data and the intricacies of your services, your billing, your projects, your delivery, your procurement. We've been able to build that into Selwyn Water DNA, which means that we have already identified some improvements in terms of revenue collection. We have already identified some improvements in terms of our kind of capital delivery projects. Our asset information will be enhanced, and hopefully, there will be some improvements in there. This has been the result of that kind of laser focus on drinking water and wastewater. Councils, as you know, better than me, have a very broad range of services that you provide, from swimming pools to parks to libraries and so on. So we've been, really focused on one area. We have worked very openly and collaboratively with the team. There are a number of things that you will see the results straight away. So I'm hoping that by the time we get to June next year, those will be reflected on what we present to the community.
Thank you, Alex. And the other one was just around the Community Advisory Group, and I know that you'll both be aware this is something that is very hot on around statement of expectations, and initially we'd had a discussion that actually in the short term it would be unachievable to stand that up. Is it now looking like that is going to be an achievable option, and are we looking at potentially next financial year, or are you looking to do that in this financial year? And what would be, I guess, the selection process for the people on that group?
So if I just answer the initial part of that question, the expectation is that that will be in play before we start billing customers on the 1st of July 2026. As we go through the process of building awareness with our own community, our new community, but your existing community, we need to be able to develop our own public face and our opportunities to meet and talk to people, not just from a community advisory group perspective, which I'll come back to shortly, but much more broadly than that, right across the ratepayer base and those who receive fresh and wastewater services from Selwyn Water. The community advisory group is a process that we would like to work with you on to agree how we go about establishing who sits around the table. I think it's important that we don't lose sight of the fact that there are a bunch of interested parties and groups right across Selwyn, so it might actually require there being more than one. So it might be an ongoing advancement of the developer forum. It might be a ratepayer specific one. It might be a more broad farming, rural, commercial group. So there's a whole range of things that we need to land on. That's part of our early work in January as a board. We've got a couple of days set aside, I think, in the third week of the month that we'll start to frame that up. And then once we've got something to share, we'll come back to you as the shareholder and seek your guidance and input into that.
Thank you. I guess what I've written down here is that actually there's a piece of work around stakeholder identification in there to inform that approach. So thank you for that.
I just would like to reinforce that point, Mayor Lydia, that Selwyn region is quite unique and diverse. We got some very big metropolitan areas that are growing really fast, but also we got some very kind of remote communities in some very challenging kind of environments. So this is where our focus has been. There's not going to be one model fits all. We need to really build enough flexibility and scalability to our solutions and our tools so that we can build them around the needs of each one of those communities rather than expect the community to adjust to kind of what we put forward. So that kind of customer focus has been, again, one of those things that we can build in the DNA of Selwyn Water as the new organisation starts to emerge early next year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. First up, we've got Samuel.
Hi. Local Water Done Well suggested that $857 million from years 2 to 10 would be operational expenditure for drinking and wastewater. So if you guys are going to deliver that in $600 million in 10 years, well done. And costs were estimated at $95 million annually approximately, but we are generating $58.7 million. Another thing I noticed was at the end of 25 to 26, the loan limit is expected to be 442 of the op revenue. So does that mean that that Selwyn Water Limited will only have 34.04 million to borrow after the end of 2026?
We're just in the process of confirming terms with the Local Government Funding Authority.
Okay.
So those are commercial sets of information. I think it's probably, with your good grace, a conversation best held within public excluded.
Cool. All good. Thank you.
I think, and part of that, some of the numbers are a bit of a moving target at the moment with the transfer. And so, yes, and so I envision quite a lot of that will actually come through in that wash-up period of the transfer, and so that reporting back that we will see in the new year from Selwyn Water Limited in conjunction, that report with SDC, we will see those firmer numbers come back so that we have a really clear steer on where we are heading.
And just for the sake of completeness, that information will be coming to you in the draft water services strategy format before it's confirmed. But given the nature and the scale of some of the transactions associated with our ongoing treasury functions, we will be advising you of those once that detail has been confirmed with LGFA.
Thank you, Murray. Next up is Reece.
Thank you very much, Murray and Alex. Bit of wind taken out of the sails with the dollar question, so I really only have one operational one, which is, I see here when you list your assets right at the start, you've got a couple of monitoring sites on wastewater. Drinking water monitoring, I mean, I assume that they're in the treatment plants, but in line, do you know how many operational monitoring points you've got? They're not listed.
We can get that information from you right now. Yeah, multiple in each scheme.
Yeah, those monitoring points would be good. I see with your risk management and compliance contamination, I mean those monitoring points, can I also have the information of what is recorded at those monitoring points? Obviously, there's no. I'm pretty keen on the chlorination and the monitoring and how we're doing that through the system. Yeah. So, okay, thank you.
And I think just to add a little more context to that, all of the current monitoring puts us well under the range in terms of any contamination at those freshwater points. So within the standards that are currently set, we are delivering.
Yeah. So with those new, and I would also say that yes, operationally, we've got a very confident board here. The dollar value that's expected to be squeezed out without asking any of those confidential questions, I believe you're going to have, by all means, spend that 50% of DCs.
Thanks, Reece. Tracy.
I've got 3 or 4 questions. How will Selwyn Water Limited prioritise and balance water needs of urban versus rural with what is a limited amount of funds? Because the rural communities do not have the high population base of the urban, and their needs are often more expensive or complex.
So, I think it all comes down to, we will be able to respond more fully to all of these once the asset transfer has been completed. As you know, we are on the final stretches of that. We're kind of running out of time to meet the 18th December deadline, but we will get there. But it all comes down to the understanding and the work that Murray referred to earlier around, the prioritization, the digitalization, the getting the right data, the right input in a way that allows us to make decisions quickly or quicker than what we do now will be, I think, the answer to respond to those communities. So really getting a good understanding, not at a regional level, but just at a very local level, understanding what the solutions are, the options are, and then prioritizing those based on that. I think that's the secret to unravel this.
Thank you. I noticed that the phrase that you use is laser-like focus on drinking water and wastewater services. Can you clarify that that's a laser-like focus on Selwyn drinking water and wastewater services, that there isn't a plan to do as for example, Cord does, which is to go and get contracts elsewhere? Your focus is only on delivering to Selwyn customers.
Absolutely it is.
I think, sorry to interject there, but What that is part of our statement of expectations. And so in the statement of expectations, the first year of operations is solely on Selwyn. There is a clause that does sit in there and about the initial focus on successful establishment. There is a clause for Selwyn Water to explore opportunities, but that must come back to us, any correspondence, and there is further discussion to have there in that space with what is happening with regional reorganisation and how we work through that program. But the initial phase is solely Selwyn. But that is something that we can feed into that draft statement of expectations in March.
Sure, thank you. I mean, I was thinking further ahead than a year, I'll be honest. Thank you. Has the Selwyn Water Limited establishment process tracked financially, practically and timingly, new word, as envisaged when the option to form Selwyn Water Limited was devised?
The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is we had an establishment budget that was allocated to the establishment phase from January to 1 July of 2 million. We spent under that at 1.8. We were ahead of schedule during that establishment phase by about 2.5 or 3 weeks. And considering the amount of work done, I think we delivered for Selwyn District Council pretty well. There's an ongoing establishment budget which is defined in the Working Capital Funding Agreement, which has been disclosed publicly in this forum previously. That is essentially a lift and shift of water-related revenue from Selwyn District Council into Selwyn Water as it begins and continues to work on waste and freshwater service delivery for the Selwyn District.
Great, thank you. And my last one is, what, if any, ways and what challenges does it present that Selwyn Water Limited is different? Because, like council, customers don't choose you. You keep referring to people as customers, which is yay, but in fact we don't get to choose who supplies our water. How does that impact how you do things, how you approach things, if any different, if it was a choice thing? Thank you.
We might both have an answer to this. Mine is I don't have any choice over who provides me my water, but I expect it to be clean when it comes out of the tap and for it to disappear out of the toilet bowl when I flush. How I interact with my water services provider, not living in Selwyn, but being in Christchurch, could be improved. And I take that with me into the forums that we have around the board table, working with Alex and the executive team. And we are duty bound to provide safe, reliable and accessible, reliable drinking water to whoever we supply it to. When you overlay the public health standards that are required, the economic and pricing regulations that the Commerce Commission are developing and will be overseeing, we don't have a choice about striving to deliver the best that we can. We just have to.
Thank you. Sophie.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming, and thank you to the board as well for coming. So one thing you mentioned at one point, this is more of a suggestion, you mentioned about gamification of understanding how water works. A few years ago, our youth council developed a wee online game around understanding council functions, and I'm just thinking, rather than going all over and doing something again, perhaps you could have a water side quest. Might be worth having a chat with them.
I'm all for not reinventing the wheel, Sophie, you know that. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay. Around the wastewater environmental performance standards, I know you don't get to set them, but if there's any chance of us finding, when you've got more information about how that will impact Selwyn, I'd be very interested. I'm sure everybody's very interested in seeing that information.
Yep. So they were only released, I think, within the last 10 days or so. So we have our internal team and some of our external advisors working through that right now. We'll expect to have an impact statement and a summary of that within the next fortnight, I would hope. So I'd like to get it to you this side of Christmas if possible. Otherwise, it'll be early in the new year.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of chatter around what the impact is for disposal to sea, and very little commentary on disposal to land, which is of course of where we sit.
Exactly.
And so you've answered questions about customer advisory group. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, around the water services strategy, are you planning to have any direct engagement with our community around that, or just council?
Yes, is the short answer. This is a really good opportunity, and probably talking to what the point that Samuel was making earlier. This is a good opportunity to, we would have completed the transition of all of that activity, the projects, the assets and everything that comes with that. Give us an opportunity to engage with the new council in terms of what direction you're trying to set for us through the statement of expectation and so on. So engaging with the community, and back to the point about customers, right? Making sure that we're clear on how we meet those demands. We build that customer focus across everything that we do. When we're designing process, we asking ourselves, how is that going to work for the customer and the community rather than for us internally? So it's we understand that is the direction of travel that you set up for us. You ask us to do best in class, and that's what we are trying to do. And I think, I'm confident that within the next few months, you're going to start seeing some of that result.
Okay. And at the end of the day, the water services strategy, the final version, is approved by the board, not by us. Thought so. So when it comes to council feedback, it would really, I get that you guys get the final say, but I'm pretty sure we'd all appreciate more than just sort of, hey, here's a thing within a meeting. Can you give us your feedback right now? Like, it'd be nice to have a couple of goes at looking at things.
I can promise you, Sophie, it won't be happening like that.
Thank you. Great. Cheers.
I can confirm also, that we will take a more collaborative approach to that. So thank you. Aaron.
Thanks very much, guys. Mostly this is just a comment, I guess. And you spoke about residents and businesses being central to your working model, which is great. But then I come to the looking ahead slide and the priorities for 2026. And to my mind, a glaring omission is, from the statement of intent, the affordable and cost-effective delivery of water services to the people of Selwyn. To my mind, that should be on the slide, any slide like that, which is your priority, and it should be number one, because you're going to never lose sight of that. Now, it's implicit in what you've been talking about, which is great, but I think you need to make that explicit so that anyone seeing a presentation like that knows where your priorities are. And there's things about communication and community engagement in there, which is all great, but I think at the end of the day, the best PA you'll get is by delivering a good service to the people of Selwyn.
Yes. I agree.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you both. This sort of follows on from what Aaron was saying and Tracy earlier. I like that the Selwyn Water Limited has the opportunity now to set a really high expectation for, I guess, the responsiveness and communication and accountability to its customers, and the opportunity to, I guess, set a best and better practice for any utilities company. I see that opportunity being the gold, really, especially in its interface with its customers. Question for you is, I'm just curious to understand a little bit more about one of the key investment areas, the dynamic adaptive pathways planning, and a little bit more about what you're addressing and adapting in terms of climate change, please.
I get all the fun questions. What we are trying to do, and Mary talked very early on the presentation, is to integrate the information that we have at the moment. We got financial information, we got kind of capital projects, we got our readings from the network. There isn't an easy way of bringing all of that together. It's quite manual. It requires a lot of time, requires a lot of effort. So by bringing together our environmental information, by bringing together our projects, so the design that we will get in terms of services and the infrastructure that we build, will streamline all of that. By working with others, again, they're not reinventing the wheel, where it might be from some games that got, the mayor kind of telling you how the council works and other things. It's just kind of building on from what we got, but providing an interface and an integration that is heavily enhanced by the digital tools that exist these days. So our ability to read trends or to identify trends over previous years, we can reduce that into minutes rather than weeks and weeks of somebody going through it. So that's essentially what we're talking about.
So trends as well as risks.
Correct, all of it. Yeah. Readings, doing some modeling on current, on the current performance of the network. So I would envisage the board and the council looking at the impact of, whatever it is that will have on the system, whether it might be, as I said, the infrastructure or the services or the capacity that we got to service our community. That should happen all relatively quickly, and you have more reliance on the information you're getting.
Great.
If I could just add briefly to that. Data-informed analytics and decision-making is a non-negotiable for an infrastructure company and an asset-owning company like Selwyn Water Limited. We need to make sure that the information we have is not only up-to-date and current, but it's accurate. So the ability for us to increase, for example, the number of sensors around the network that don't just deal with water quality issues, but the current state of the network is critical. So, leak detection sensors, and so that we can more rapidly transit into renewal program. So when people turn up to work at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, the weekend data shows us this. So you were going to go there today, but now you're going to go there. So those outages and those problems we hope to be able to adjust much more quickly.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Denise.
Thank you. You mentioned the asset transfer process will be done by the 18th of December. That's 8 days away. Do you think that it will get done by that date?
Yes.
Yes, you're certain?
Yes, and it's an equal mix of terror and excitement.
I'm sure it is.
But the key is that during the establishment phase, the development of the statement of expectation, and the early work on the transition and transfer process, we have built a 6-month window to make sure that everything that we get within those schedules is as accurate and as locked down as possible. So whilst there's a signing of a deal on the 18th, the work won't stop in terms of making sure we've got the right material in the right place.
And councillors, I might, on behalf of Selwyn District Council, also attest to the fact it is a yes. Given the collaborative nature of the team that we've been working on, this is the immovable force and deadline we're aiming for, and it will be delivered.
Thank you. And I've got a couple of other questions. I sent through some questions which I think you answered, Alex. And your last point, you had put a complete and verified set of financial numbers will be provided once asset debt and depreciation schedules are finalised through the due diligence process. Is that the numbers that are going to be made available to us in January that you talked about?
Probably. I mean, we'll wait till the 18th and see what we get. And but we do need to, make sure that we are both working from the same set of numbers, so that provides the clarity that you require. As you know, we are transferring drinking water and wastewater, but not stormwater. Yeah. So that's some complexity in terms of you got them all together now. We separate in two, and so there is. As Mary often says, if you say it fast, doesn't sound too complicated, but when you kind of get into the detail of
very complicated.
This, if I can make another point based on what we were saying earlier about the modelling and the adaptive. So when you think about the time and effort, that both teams have put into getting that detailed data for the transfer, this is the same data that we need to do that planning. So now that we got a clean set of data, then we add some additional kind of tools that would allow us to look at the trends, and that it will enhance both, what the council does and what Selwyn Water does for the community in terms of how we manage operations. That's a real kind of winner here, I think.
Okay. Do we have some sort of timeline on when the Selwyn Water rates, how much they'll go up by? Sorry, Alex.
So part of that is through that wash-up period. So we'll have that information ahead of annual plan time.
Okay.
Because obviously, like from 1st of July, so the next financial year, the billing will be coming from Selwyn Water Limited, and so it's something that I see as really important, is that we have clear line of sight through our annual plan process of what that looks like, but also the decisions that we are making as council as well. So it's something that I recognise is very important, and really important for us to understand. And so a lot of this will happen through this draft water services delivery plan and the wash-up period from the transfer, that we can get those real firm numbers. And I kind of alluded to at the start where I'd asked the question around when can we start to see those efficiencies that you see. And so this is where the team will bring some numbers back to us of what this looks like for the financial years going ahead. So please, anyone correct me if I've got that slightly wrong, but yeah.
Okay. And then just finally with the Pines wastewater treatment plant, are there any issues that we need to worry about with that, other than obviously we've got huge growth occurring and basic maintenance? Is there any other issues around the plant that we need to factor in?
No, I think that the team, the core team and our team that work on the plant, they do a really good job. We have had to deal with two, very significant weather events, and things have performed well. So I think the issue is more of a strategic one. Yeah, the more we grow, the more pressure will be on the plant. We got some ideas as to how we might tackle that going forward, and those will, require that kind of sessions that we are planning with you to kind of, align our strategies and future planning. So right now, I think, yes, it's something that we're keeping an eye on, but I don't think there's any major issues with it.
Okay, so there's no failings with the current plant there?
All in all, I think I remember reviewing some of our readings after one of the weather events, which is when you expect the plant to be put under more pressure, and I think that that we're okay. There will be some challenges around growth for sure, and maintaining our kind of regulation and it's quite a complex piece, but I don't think it is a major risk for us at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Elizabeth.
Hi, I've got a bunch of questions, and they might not be appropriate for right now. They might be futuristic, but alternative solutions. We've talked a lot about laser focus. Will there be a laser focus on alternative solutions for especially our smaller, more remote townships, so that we can bring in the affordability factor? Great. The borrowing capacity, is there a wee bit of a concern around the fact that you're already looking to get to expected 442% of your 500? That's 2026, isn't it? Any concerns around reaching that figure so quickly in the piece?
My preference would be to wait until we complete the transfer of the debt and the assets, and then we can revise those numbers.
Okay, great. The risk profile for natural disasters, would that sit with us in the statement for intent, the board, or yourselves as staff?
We have initially, we are working together as part of the transfer agreement, the service level agreement that we got between the two organizations. Obviously, the teams, been working together for the last few years, and we continue to maintain that. We will become a lifeline utilities organization, so there's some regulation that we need to adhere to as an organization, and we'll be, again, for the initial period, we're still doing pretty much the same as what we do now, but over time, Selwyn Water will have to create its own way of responding to those.
Okay. Is there any risk in over digitalising, e.g., connectivity issues, power shortages? Do we have a backup plan for the amount of data that you're obviously needing to collect?
Yes, and I think that we are thinking very strategically about how we do that, so that we reduce those risks.
Brilliant. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the savings, and from what I can ascertain from what you've written, the savings to our constituency clearly comes from just not putting the rates up. But is there any direct way that we could look to pass savings on to constituents in the future, potentially, as we I know obviously everything's supposed to be planned to a T, but we find extra savings somehow. How are they going to be able to be passed back on?
So I think there are two options. One is those savings can be reinvested to enable acceleration of the capital program if required. The second may well be some sort of rebate, who would know, but we aren't able to quantify scale yet. My initial work with Alex has indicated that there are probably somewhere between $12 and $16 million of a mix of revenue increase and cost reduction. But again, once we've got the full asset transfer process completed, then we'll be in a position to lock those numbers down, and they will be included in the water services strategy and in regular reporting to you as our shareholder.
Great.
Yeah.
I think some of that comes back to our, again, our statement of expectation. So we had dictated to Selwyn Water Limited that you are not a dividend earning entity. Anything that is, I guess, surpluses. And again, we can change this, and March is actually reinvested back into the entity, lowering borrowing costs and delivering on capital expenditure.
100%.
But look, we always have the option to change what that looks like too, noting that if we are borrowing less, there is less operational cost to the entity as well.
Some of what you've talked about in here is the council will continue with collecting the information from the community and be the direct line, and then we will feed it back to you. Is there a plan for you to transition where you will be the direct line, receiving directly, just so that there isn't that double handling and potentially slowing down of that connection between community and yourselves?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, and by the 1st of July 2026 is when we expect all of that to transfer across.
Okay.
But what, again, going back to Mayor Lydia's statement before, what you set up on the statement of expectation is to avoid disruption to the customer, so everything will be carefully planned and transition so that we don't confuse the community in terms of who they're talking to and who they're engaging with. In particular, you know, when you got an issue, where do you go to? So that's will all start to emerge on the first quarter of 2026.
In terms of your cost increases, obviously your borrowing is based on revenue, correct? And development.
And half share of development contributions.
Okay. So is there a risk that if we hit the 440 something % and we need to borrow more for some bigger projects, that would then trigger an increase in costs so that the revenue increases? Are you potentially able to work with some sort of inflation cap on your year by year revenue increases?
I was just going to quote one of our star financial modelers. Well, actually, we borrow from you, Thomas Cockburn, who he keeps saying to me, just borrow less and then you will manage your debt better. So what we want is to ensure that we have, that approach on priorities, that the way that we integrate and manage kind of the projects would enable us, I think, to deliver better results for a reduced cost. But equally, It's probably a bit early to comment on that until we get the full set of financial. The transfer of debt is complex. Council has a significant portfolio with kind of the dates around those. It's differ. So we're talking about now whether it's transfer as one bundle or whether we wait and transfer in stages. So again, if you don't mind waiting till January, we can respond to that better.
Okay.
Elizabeth, if I could just add to that for you. We operate under a price quality regulatory regime put in place by the Commerce Commission. And sitting at the heart of that are a number of things. The expenditure that we include in our long-term water services strategy has to be efficient. Our borrowing must be prudent, as per ComCom. We need to engage with you on disciplined long-term planning and delivery. And we are required to provide transparent reporting on value for money measures under the Commerce Commission's regulatory environment. And they will scrutinise us to within an inch of our lives relative to the proposed prices, reflecting genuine and efficient costs for water services delivery. So as I said earlier on, we've got a lot of eyes on here, and we walk towards that.
Great. Last question. Is there any discussions that have been had around government funding for some of the larger projects?
Well, I mean, formal discussions, no. One of the things that we have said throughout the engagement and establishment is that it goes back to that our capital delivery program. What we have now is a list of things that need to be done. Some of them may be replacing, 6 pumps in a pump station. Others could be there was some reporting on a centralized freshwater distribution thing. To me, it's really hard to assess all of those things with the same criteria. So we are trying to be more sophisticated in the way that we prioritize what it might be kind of just maintenance work and some of the network expansion versus some of the other projects that will undoubtedly, if we do it well, have some additional benefits to the community and therefore kind of multiplying the effect of any money that we spend on that. And through that, there may be some partners that maybe the government that is interested in participating on that too. So I think it's just kind of doing a good job with our planning, then demonstrating how this is different, that what we do, demonstrating the value to the community, demonstrating the advantage of going early. I'm thinking that the decision of going early really put the council in a good position given all of the change that is coming this way. So I think there will be some parties that will be interested in partnering with the region and delivering better outcomes for everyone.
And I think in addition to that, when you look at the proposed changes released around RMA reform and combined territory boards and an expectation of much deeper regional collaboration, that's a conversation I think for Selwyn District Council to have with us standing beside you for supporting any conversations or discussions that might revolve around water service provision at a broader level. I think it's those sorts of things that potentially government would be interested in exploring further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big Red.
So 50% of development contributions can be used as revenue. Does the other 50% go into a capital fund?
This is a special provision that LGFA has for CCOs under the Local Water Done Well reform, or also known as Selwyn Water Limited. So it's a new provision and something that I think we learned through our engagement with DIA and others through the development of the Water Services Delivery Plan, which essentially means that we can tap onto that early on, reducing the kind of pressure on the community and making that kind of contributes to the funding growth kind of approach. I'm sure there will be some further changes coming up in that space. But the other thing that is important to note is that the more connections that you have, that 50% may well improve. So if we suddenly, we end up getting to 30 or 40,000 connections, you might be able to get to up to 60% of that being recognised as revenue up front, which would also help.
So 50% of the development contribution comes into the revenue of 58.7 mil a year. Page 8, we've got 600 million planned investments over the next 10 years. You're taking on 133 million of debt. What will the debt level be at the end of 10 years? Have we got a projection on that?
Again, if you don't mind waiting until we complete the transfer, we haven't got all the schedules yet, and the team are busy completing that. So once we get the information from SDC, we'll be able to do some modelling around that and come back to you with some clarity around those numbers.
Beautiful. And it's great to see you not buying any Land Cruisers. Well done.
We're looking at our options, but yeah, we cross Land Cruisers out of the list.
It's, I think, and maybe the question is that 58 million of revenue for next financial year, that includes the DC component?
Yes, I assume that includes everything. Again, it will once we get the final schedules, we can confirm, but I assume it does.
Thank you. And last up, John.
Thank you. A very useful overview. Thanks a lot. And just looking at the growth and the development contributions, is there any thought given to how that's going to, with Selwyn Water Limited, tap into the current and projected over the next 18 months subdivisions? May not be a answer now, but
my suggestion would be that we incorporate that into a more detailed PX briefing, given the commercial sensitivity associated with some of that information.
Thought that might be the case.
Thank you.
And the other one, Alex, as you know from the community board presentation, and that was excellent feedback from the community, that for the annual plan, is it anticipated that the Selwyn Water will be in a position that it will be able to say, and I'm parochial, in Darfield we're going to be connecting here, here and here with this time frame, and maybe the figures that were provided by the Selwyn District Council under the previous administration may not be accurate or could be revised down. And then there's also a school that's nearing capacity with its sewerage connection, and there's a growth issue, not expecting an answer on this. And there's also a housing complex, and like other people in Darfield, they're sort of quite anxious as to what can they expect, and they would really appreciate, as you know, early planning, so that if it's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years, if it's going to happen next year, well, that'll raise the anxiety levels.
If I may, that is yes to all of that. I think that we definitely want to be more visible. We want to engage in different ways. We want to, turn up at the Darfield Bakery and have a cup of coffee and talk to, people there about what they need, as well as engaging through some other means. I think that's something that the council and the community, when we went through the consultation, were very clear. They want more engagement, they want the openness, the transparency. So great opportunity to launch Selwyn Water in the way that we kind of want to operate in the future. I was told the story last week, I think it was, I went in a coffee shop and I opened the door for this lady, and she saw the Selwyn Water there, and we ended up spending 25 minutes talking about her concerns, her needs and stuff, and hopefully she will invite me back to her coffee group at some time in the future, so we can. There is a level of concern or nervousness about how things are going to be different. And I think we are trying to do the right thing. We the council set us to try to do a good job and do it with you. So we got a really great story to tell and get people to help us shaping how we do that. So there's not better opportunity than now, given that we got a greenfield approach. What we need is to create the connections with the council, with the community, with developers, with central agencies, and really hopefully add some value through kind of showing how it can be done in what is going to be a new way for councils to operate.
Happy to take more questions, but if I just draw some of the last sort of 20 minutes together, I thought it might be useful if I just give you a bit of a running summary of where I think this is landing. So the transfer of revenue and expenditure from STC to Selwyn Water is being deliberately designed to avoid any funding imbalance for council or Selwyn Water Limited. So we're trying to make this connected and aligned on the way through. Our charges will be regulated and based on the actual cost of delivering safe, reliable and accessible drinking and wastewater services to the district under national standards. So those things are non-negotiable. Our aim is to reduce and control operating cost and increase long-term investment in infrastructure to future-proof and provide a resilient network, not just for this generation, but for those who follow. One of the rubbing up points here is that Selwyn District Council and Selwyn Water Limited, under various and even the same piece of legislation, are required to operate differently. So we have to make sure that we're joined at the hip with you as we start to build out our operating model. And whilst we operate differently, we do so also within different regulatory environments and with different mandates. So we operate under our statement of expectation from you as shareholder, and you operate as elected members of the Selwyn District Council. When asset transfer and transition is concluded, we will have a baseline set of numbers that will enable us to have a much deeper and richer conversation around future investment profile, sequencing and prioritising of the capital program over the next 20 to 30 years.
I think today for me actually reflects a change in the way that we operate together, and having this discussion in public for our community to listen and respond to, I think is really important. I think there's been potentially not enough information for how this works and how this is going to go, and I think this is the start of actually what is good partnership together with our community. So we're not having discussions in isolation. This is actually us and together with our community, and so I think that is a really important thing to acknowledge. The discussion that has been had today and will be had in the future going forward. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lydia. And our invitation is standing and open, and we are more than happy to come and speak with you at not only the times outlined and expressed in the statement of expectation, but any other time where there might be something of interest or material importance to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, part of that is that really busy schedule that we've got in early part of 2026 to work together on what this looks like for our community. So we'll go last comments to Alex.
I just would like to I acknowledge the work that the team at Selwyn District Council have done to help us to get to this point. But I would also like to acknowledge and introduce to you that Selwyn Water Limited team that's been doing all the work that Mary and I just described today. There's a lot of people working very hard, often working through weekends to meet those tight timelines that we talked earlier. And I got with me here Elaine and Heather, pretending that they're not with us, but they are with us. and they do a lot of the heavy lifting. And also we have Cam and Joe and Nisha with a much wider group of people, many of them that transfer from the council to Selwyn Water in September, and they've been doing a fantastic job to kind of think differently about how they approach their work, and at the same time provide that vital link between current state and future state. So I would like to acknowledge their contribution in front of you publicly.
Absolutely, and I concur that there is a lot of work that is going on in the background. Is quite potentially an understatement for all of our staff in this organisation and yours as well. So the timelines are very sensitive, and look, I think we're all looking forward to it, and we can get those clearer numbers, and that's the really important part here, is that we get the clarity of where we're going and what is happening. So I really look forward to that happening. But I thank you all for your time today. It's been very insightful, and I appreciate the openness and honesty, and Q&A sessions I think are really important to have. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. We'll call this briefing to an end for the day, and we will carry on this afternoon for our council meeting. So thank you all for joining us.